I really have to take issue with the idea that the 17-year-old who was decapitated while trying to get his hat and jumping over, I believe, 2 fences at the Six Flags Over Georgia ride attraction was stupid. And it's for this reason, by example. It was January 11th, 2004. I went to the Hyatt Regency San Francisco to a place called 13 Views to watch the Philadelphia Eagles host the Green Bay Packers in a wild card playoff game. The Eagles won in dramatic fashion. It was 20-17. Donovan McNabb completed a 28-yard pass on 4th and 26. Well, as I'm watching this in this giant atrium lobby, 18 stories tall, magnificent architectural wonder. If you've never seen it before, you should come to San Francisco, come down to Market, where Market ends, and check it out. As I'm watching this game, all of a sudden, behind me, I hear a resounding crash. Well, I thought that a cart of plates had fallen down and the plates shattered. No big deal. A few minutes later, I heard people murmuring and talking, and I heard feet rushing over to find out what was going on, and I was so wrapped in paying attention to the game that it never occurred to me at that time to turn around and see what was going on. But then the stampede in that direction and the feet became louder. Then a waitress came back and said, "Oh my God," and at that point I decided I better check this out. That was a good 10 or 15 minutes after the crash occurred. So I went over, not knowing what I was going to see, and walked toward the glass elevator shaft at the other end of the atrium, past a small group of people, and went to look down into the shaft. The way the Hyatt is designed, the shaft is actually open. You can see the glass elevators going up and down their respective shaft placements. It's quite a beautiful thing. But you can also see from one floor to the next down through the shaft, through the floors, because of the openings in the floors that accommodate the shaft. At any rate, I looked down, and the first thing I saw was a body cut in half. And the second thing was something that I felt, I didn't see. It was this. Something went by me and through me like that. It all happened in 3 seconds, and I hold to this day that what went past me was the spirit of that person. It changed my life forever. It made me feel and perceive people in a way that I had not before, and have not since 2 years after this entire way that I was sort of wore off, I guess. I don't quite know to this day what happened. But I never thought of that person as being stupid. In fact, unfortunately, that woman had committed suicide, and she was trying to make a statement. What it was ultimately was, look, I've got a problem, and I guess you've caused it, and so, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So I don't ever consider such incidents as stupid. In the case of the 17-year-old, because I know you're saying, well, the two are different. Yes, they are different. As I understand it, the 17-year-old was going to get after a hat he lost. But I blame, first of all, not just Six Flags itself, but both the city, state, and federal jurisdictions that are responsible for approving the construction of a ride such that anyone could climb from one fence to the other and risk that kind of accident. I think what's happened in our society is that it's become so complex that it is beyond our ability to comprehend. It's as if we either don't pay attention to the chaoticians, or we hire the chaoticians and they don't do a good job, or some combination of the two. Or we don't know that chaoticians exist. Now, what are chaoticians? Chaoticians are people whose specialty is in examining and anticipating chaos. Now, if you think about it, that's a very difficult something to do, and a activity of the highest order of intellect. It means that I have to sit back and think about every possible scenario that could happen and have some type of risk management contingency in place. And you would say, that's gibberish. What is that? It simply means that I have to be ready for whatever might happen. In this case, it means that if someone decides to jump a fence, I have to have a fence so tall that they can't jump it. It means that I have to have a roller coaster ride designed in such a way that it expresses an awareness of the potential dangers to people riding it and around it. That was not the case for this ride. Now, those of you out there would say, well, the 17-year-old should have done this. The 17-year-old should have known this. Look, teenagers are not expected to be accountable when they're teenagers. You learn accountability when you're a teenager. You're expected to be accountable as an adult. It's quite different. It's quite different. We've seen some adults aren't accountable. Heck, I'm not accountable a lot of the time, and I'm trying to be. We can't think and do everything. But that aside, the bottom line is that a teenager is learning accountability. It is not reasonable to expect a teenager to understand the dangers of leaping over a fence into a roller coaster field to get something that belongs to them. Look, when I was little, I watched The $6 Million Man a lot. And I remember coming down a roadway, sidewalk on my bike faster than I had thought, and there was a post in my way. And I thought that I would just pretend as if I were Steve Austin, put up my arm and and bang it out of the way. Instead, I got banged. Okay? That hurt. I had a scar here that almost lasts to this day. Not quite, though. It's about gone now, but it hurt. I obviously have not forgotten it. There wasn't anyone around at that specific point in time to tell me, yeah, Zenny, you shouldn't ride down that grade so rapidly. And by the way, you shouldn't lift your arm up thinking that your arm is going to simply cause the post to go flying off. It doesn't work that way, and neither do you. So again, it's not reasonable to expect that from a 17-year-old. It is right to consider a lawsuit. It is right to file a lawsuit. It is right to sue. The people who manufacture such rides should know better. They really should. That incident should not have occurred, in my opinion.